Hi, I'm Jeff Good. Welcome to Chefs with Soul. This is going to be a show where music and food, cooking and culture, conversation and sharing take place right here in a comfortable space where we share with you the best of what our capital city, Jackson, Mississippi, has to offer. For today's show, our chef is somebody I really admire. He is the owner of Big Apple Inn, a fixture on Farish Street, which is a historic district here in Jackson. His name is Geno Lee, fourth generation restaurateur, serving something called smokes and pig ear sandwiches on Farish Street. Can't wait to have a conversation. Geno Lee, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Jeff. Good to see you again, man.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Always good to see you, sir. Also joining us today will be Pamela Jr. She's the executive director of the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. Brand new museum, big story, we're going to talk all about it. But for almost 20 years before the opening of this museum, she was with the Smith Robertson Museum here in Jackson, a jewel box of a museum with a great story. Pam's going to share both of those stories with us, as well as some of her memories of growing up around Farish Street, where she would have had some pigs and smokes with Geno. Pam, welcome. It is great to see you.
Good to be here.
An absolute pleasure. Geno, tell me a little bit about Big Apple Inn and the history of Big Apple, because as I mentioned at the beginning, 4 generations of people.
That's right. We've been on Farish Street since 1939. When we first opened up, my great-grandfather, who was a little short, fat Mexican man, his name was Juan Mora. I mean, he was about 5'2" tall and about 5'2" wide. And his name was Juan, but everybody called him Big John, and you can see why. You know, when he said he wanted to get into shape, he was a circle. So what he would do is he worked for the city building bridges, and he fell off the bridge.
Railway, didn't he?
With the railway. Yeah, is that
Edward?
owned by the city or whoever? But he, you know where the King Edward Hotel is? That little viaduct right there. He was helping build that. Fell off the top of it and broke his nose, and couldn't work anymore. You know, they laid him off or whatever happened. So we had to figure out another way to make some money, and he decided to sell his homemade hand-rolled hot tamales as his mother taught him when he was a kid, and he sold them right there on Farish Street. And he set up shop right there in the corner of Farish and Hamilton Street.
So like a street vendor.
Yeah, a street vendor with a fire on the sidewalk and a tin drum, and sold his hot tamales.
And he would start in the morning and sell out until he was done for the day?
That's exactly right.
I assume he must have done well because he ended up getting a shop.
Well, you know, he first opened up on the street and did that for a number of years, and there was an old store on Farish Street at the time, and the guy who owned the store, the guy's name was Maggiano, was going out of business, and he wanted to sell the store to my great-grandfather for $100. And you said, well, he must have been doing well. Well, he didn't have $100. $100 was a lot of money.
Of course.
It's a lot of money now.
Yes.
But back then, it was a whole lot of money. He was able to save up 50 and borrow another 50 and opened up the Big Apple Inn in 1939.
Well, yeah. I think the Big Apple was his favorite dance. Is that correct?
That's right, and that's why it's called the Big Apple Inn. During that time, during the Cab Calloway days, and all this great music back then, there was a dance called the Big Apple, and he called himself one of the little jitterbugs, you know, and he had this Zoot suit and his long chain and the big hat, and one of his favorite dances was called the Big Apple, so we named it after his favorite dance.
I'm trying to figure out what the Big Apple dance is. Now, Zoot suits and all that, of course. My grandfather has some amazing stories about himself being on Farish Street, and I'd love to share some of those, but that's something you say tall, 5'2". I'm 5'2", okay?
So, I'm 5'4", so we're all giants.
Okay. A giant of a mouth. Okay.
I think that's why we have all 3 of us here.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, join us here and let's talk a little bit about your history. Since we're talking about Farish Street, do you have some familiar ties, or just as a Jacksonian growing up, just memories?
Just a Jacksonian growing up, and I remember, you know, I was telling someone that we're missing our porch stories, and I used to love to sit on the porch and listen to my grandfather talk about his young days, and he would talk about these suits that he'd get custom made, and the Crystal Palace was across the street there, and I think Johnny T's is there now, but they get these suits and put on, and he'd put his fedora hat on his head, and he and his cousin had this whistle that they would do with each other, so they'd connect. They knew if they heard the whistle, they would connect with each other, and they would have this dap when they'd walk down the street. They had this little dap, and they'd go into the club and get all the girls. What I've heard is that Farish Street the history of Farish Street, as far as the African Americans that were in that community, is the most amount of African Americans that could live in a community in the state of Mississippi and the United States. It's on the historic register. Wow. It's an amazing community where blacks, most of the blacks owned their own houses. There wasn't a lot of renters. If we get into historical context, what was important to me is the civil rights aspect of it, and having someone like Medgar and Myrlie Evers upstairs. You know, I went into that area upstairs when it's abandoned, and my mind just started thinking about Myrlie sitting at the desk and saying, "Mr. Evers, the telephone is for you." She never said Medgar, Mr. Evers, and he called her Mrs. Evers. And they ran that office there. And to see the old files, and I went through them. Some of those files are still there. I saw the name of Sam Bailey and people like that who worked in those offices. Wow. Just an amazing place to know that when they gathered in your area where they could have meetings and they could also
That's
eat.
right.
And you know, that would have been the field secretary's office for the NAACP, and Medgar was the field secretary who is infamous for being shot down in his driveway here in Jackson, which is another location that is on the Civil Rights Tour.
Yes.
What was it like as a family to have your business underneath a epicenter of the Civil Rights movement?
Well, I think now, looking back at it in hindsight, it's really neat. But you have to understand that back then, the whole street was the epicenter. You know, the whole Farish Street was where African Americans gathered. It just seemed natural for Medgar to have his office down on Farish Street because that's where the gathering of African Americans were. But what was neat that my grandfather explained to me was when he would have his meetings, or when freedom riders would come to town, or even Martin Luther King would come to town. He couldn't meet in his office because his office was only like a little 10 by 10 square foot building. So they'd have to meet in a place that was large enough, and they'd come down to the Big Apple Inn and have their meetings inside the Big Apple Inn.
You provided a real service, didn't you? Besides some great service.
We did, you know, and as I said though, looking back hindsight, we see the service back then, it was just, you know, what was done.
For me, as we talk about this, the history of Farish Street, the importance of the Civil Rights Movement, and the food, and the meeting locations, the neat thing is you're still there, and the Big Apple Inn is still serving the same product that it served when your great-grandfather sold those first tamales on the street. So as we talk about this, I say to myself, I sure would like to have some of that, and it just so happened that I placed an order with the waiter service.
Oh, really?
And they've got some smokes and some pig ear sandwiches ready for us.
Oh, wow.
Are you hungry?
We're hungry.
Yeah.
I am.
Are you hungry for your own food?
Let's get something to eat. You can see what we're talking about.
Waiter, download now to have great local food delivered to your door.
All right, let's see. Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm Jeff.
Gary Griffin.
Hi, Gary. Nice to meet you.
Nice to
It's a
meet you
pleasure.
as well. Waiter order from Big Apple Inn.
Right on. So, waiter, you're a delivery service.
Yes, sir.
And you deliver from restaurants around the city.
208 restaurants
208 restaurants.
so far.
So, obviously, Big Apple Inn is one of the restaurants that's delivered.
One of the favorites this season.
So, I imagine you delivered a lot of hotels and people's homes. And
Nursing homes.
What's the strangest place you've ever delivered?
The strangest place in parking lot.
A parking lot.
Yes.
Well, everybody's got to eat. All righty. So the beautiful thing is we've already paid for this.
Yes, sir.
But you know what? I always like to leave a little something extra because I'm in the business. So I tell you what, thank you.
My kids would love that. And thank you all for using Waiter.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right.
Wow, Jeff, you actually ordered something from us. Wow, that's neat. That is so
I wanted
cool.
this to be a little bit of a surprise.
Let's
I
see
thought
what
it'd be
you
fun.
ordered.
All right.
Okay, well, This is a bag of smokes.
Wow.
You have a good eye.
Yeah. Well, smokes.
Smokes.
You ever had a smoke before?
I have.
Have you, Pam?
I have. It's been a long time.
Oh, well, do you know how we make these?
I would love you to tell me.
Well, it's
magic.
indigenous. It is magic. It's indigenous to Mississippi. The red rose smoked sausage is only made here in Mississippi and not shipped out of the state of Mississippi.
Red Rose. is the
Red
brand.
rose.
Red
It's
Rose.
made right here. It's been made right here for the past 100 years.
Okay.
And what we do is we take the casing off of the sausage and we grind it up, put it on a slider bun with a mustard sauce, slaw, and a homemade hot sauce. Oh, doesn't that sound good? Doesn't that sound
Yes,
good?
it does.
Oh my
Yes, it
goodness!
does.
It's,
Yes, it does.
It's heaven on a bun.
Yes, it does.
And that's a smoke right there.
It's beautiful. That's why, so it's the red rose sausage that has that red coloring in it, and that's why a smoke is so red.
That's right.
That, and of course,
Exactly
smoking also makes meat make redder.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It does get
All
it.
right.
And we have ears, pig ears. How about pig ears? You ever had a pig ear
So
sandwich?
I have, and there's all sorts of food that's out there that's lovely. There's all sorts.
You ever had a pig
I've
ear?
never had a pig ear sandwich.
You gotta try a pig ear.
Okay.
You know, Garden and Gun magazine a couple years ago mentioned that there's 10 things you must do before you die.
Okay.
Number 3 was eat a pig ear sandwich from the Big Apple Inn.
Wow.
Well,
So this is your chance.
Probably while
It's a
bungee
part of
cording.
my bucket list.
There
okay?
you go. Well,
Okay.
you
Part
can
of my
fulfill that bucket list today.
I am gonna
Checking
be
it off today.
Checking it off.
Well, you know what's
right.
funny about these pig ears is when my great-grandfather first opened the restaurant after he made the hot tamales, he started with the smoked sausage.
Right.
And the meat packer would give him the ears and other parts of the pig that were free, or give it to him free because he was going to throw them away. My great-grandfather figured out a way to cook them and make a profit off of them. After a few years, he started charging them for the pig ears.
So, today in the restaurant business, farm to table, tip to tail, the whole idea about using the whole part of the pig, they charge big money for people to come and eat, like sow head or knuckled feet. You're telling me that these are like $1.10 a piece, aren't they?
They are. They're
So,
$1.50 a piece. Everything in our
$1.50.
restaurant is $1.50. $1.50.
Yeah, but for $1.50, you can have the upscale tip-to-tail experience of a pig ear sandwich.
It's amazing that you
Only in
mentioned that,
Jackson,
Jeff.
Mississippi.
That's right.
Well, let's do a little history here. Let's talk a little bit about the ears and the hog head, because when we look at the enslaved people living on the plantation, they were after the big pig hog, when you cut the hog and everything, they used that. They gave those parts to the enslaved people. So that's where your hog head sauce came from. That's where your pig ears came, because they ate the chitlings, all of that. That came from during the enslaved
Necessity.
times. Yes,
Came out of
they
necessity.
had to eat, so they didn't get the bacon and the ham. They didn't get those parts. But they
No
got,
Boston butt here, right?
No Boston butt here. But they got those parts and they made them into delicacies because they needed to eat, and this was a way for them to eat.
Amazing.
You're
So-
exactly right. I was in New York a couple years ago, and I went to this fine dining restaurant, and I got a pig ear appetizer. And it was a half of a pig ear, and they sliced it up really thin and put neat little garnishment and made it really pretty, and charged $25.
Wow.
Wow.
Something that my great-grandfather got for free.
Yeah.
Let's
It's
see what else you ordered, Jeff.
Sure.
Oh, Jeff, you got our famous hand-rolled homemade hot tamales.
Oh
So-
my goodness.
Man,
This is what started it all.
this is it. This is what started it all. You did a good job, Jeff.
My wife gets really mad at me whenever we go out because I'm like, can we share like everything? All right, so we can have some?
Hey, let's grab a smoke and raise it up.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm just going to grab it off the plate. I don't need to put it on the plate. I'm going to
I'm
bite
with you on
now.
that. All right. I'm going to
Okay.
start with the smoke, go to pig ear. So
Okay.
here we go. All right.
Okay.
Ready?
So
One,
I
two,
need
three.
to bite in, huh? Okay.
No, that's good. You know what? I'm down in the restaurant every day. I eat these every single day.
Well, you don't look like Big John.
I'm getting there.
This is good.
So what's delicious about this is it's the smoked pork. And if I can open this up. And Geno was mentioning they break the casing off the sausage. That's the part that's inside, and then you make a hamburger patty out of it for all intents and purposes on a griddle, right?
That's right. That's right.
On a hot grill. So you're getting that burn sensation on the meat. And then the slaw you make is a mustard slaw.
Well, it's just shredded cabbage, and then we make a mustard sauce that we put on top of it, and then our homemade hot sauce.
It's delicious.
That's right.
Absolutely delicious.
And you have the same sauce on the pig ear, right?
Yes, we have 5 sandwiches and hot tamales. That's all we have. People are like, why don't you sell anything else? Well, we know those 5 things well.
Try, I'm alone right now. Geno. Welcome to the two Mississippi Museums.
Thank you, Rachel. It's good to be here.
Absolutely.
This is such a nice place. This is huge.
I'm just so excited. There's so much to do and so much to see here, but we have a task. You're here to help us roll the very perfect tamale.
That's what I was told.
Which is really nice because it's a part of what we're doing here at the Museum of Mississippi History is we're telling all these stories, and I think this one is pretty unknown.
You know, and that's what's neat about the tamale and about Mexican culture in Mississippi in general. People don't realize what a diverse melting pot Mississippi is. And when they asked me to come show you how to make the perfect tamale, I said, this fits in perfectly.
Yeah, our theme is One Mississippi, Many Stories. So as you're going through the museum, you'll really get a sense of all the different peoples that were here in Mississippi in different times.
Wow.
And we actually feature tamales in the galleries.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I'll tell you that one case where all the food is the most touched. So you see all the fingerprints and essentially like nose prints because people are so delighted and they think it's real.
I can't wait to go in there because I think there's a real big food history in Mississippi. I mean, there's a delicacy that people don't know about in the state of Mississippi. And it's also diverse, just like our cultures are.
And it's a way for us to know things about each other.
Food is always an entry point to everything.
All right, I'm ready to enter right
Ready?
now.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, first of all, tamale came to Mississippi after slavery. But after slavery, there was a large Hispanic population in the Delta, and a perfect staple for them to make was the tamale. Because the tamale is made up of meat, and in Mexico they use a corn flour. Now, here in Mississippi, corn flour wasn't as easy to come by as corn meal. So the Mississippi tamale is made with corn meal. So that's why Mississippi tamale is kind of different than you would have in your Mexico tamale.
They always have to have something different.
That's
always
right.
a southern
Mississippi.
flair.
That's Mississippi, I tell you.
Well, it's what makes us so special and unique.
That's right.
And you know,
That's right.
that's what the food culture is
This
about
is one
here.
thing in Mississippi, though, that's not deep fried.
Have you had a deep fried tamale?
I have.
Okay, how was
That's-
it?
Oh, incredible. This is what you do with the tamale. You take a corn shuck.
Geno, you realize this is my first time rolling a tamale.
It's okay. You're going to be a pro. It's easy.
And we're on camera,
Easy.
so we have to do it right.
Oh, you got it. You got it. Take you some matzah. I'd say about that much there.
So you're saying matzah. See, I know matzah is something different. So I come from Jewish culture, Jewish heritage, and matzah is really flat bread that's unleavened.
It is. Yeah,
during
like
the
a
holiday.
matzo ball.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, matzah meal, matzah balls.
Yeah.
But similar.
Go on and make your tamale. Bring your matzah all the way to the end.
A little bit more
Yes.
in.
Because
Oh,
we're gonna
all the way
eat
to
it-
the
yes,
end.
we're going to eat it from this side. Okay? Now, you know what, Rachel? I have a hot tamale machine. And the machine will roll tamales, and it'll roll like 100 dozen tamales in a couple hours.
Wow.
But we don't use the machine because we like to put meat in our tamales, a lot of meat in our tamales. The machine will only put so much. So we roll our hot tamales by hand in our restaurant.
So you're saying it's the good old-fashioned
It's the good
historical
old-fashioned
way.
way.
That's how
right.
we're doing it
That's
here at the
right.
museum. Historical
That's
accuracy.
that's exactly right. There you go. You ready?
Yes.
Now, there's your matzah. Now we grab some meat. That
This is a Geno-sized meatball.
That is, oh yeah, it is. And you kind of put the meat down the middle.
Got it.
Oh, you're hired. You're Y'all look at that tamale. That thing's
See, mine is a
huge.
little bit overstuffed. I'm worried that
Man,
it will.
She's making a tamale burrito. So take this side here
Yes.
and roll it, and then fold the other one around.
You did that so beautifully. All right,
Well,
so I'm
you
gonna
can-
roll it.
That's right, and bring the other side around. Yours is so fat, that's why it's but it's oh man, yours looks great though.
Can't believe you just said that about my tamale. This would be the one that wouldn't quite make it to the field. This would be
Rachel.
the one that the person that was making it was like, I'm gonna keep
No,
this
that's
for
the one they'll
myself.
fight over.
I'm really excited to try to make another tamale so that I do a better job that time. I'm ready.
Tell you what, in case you make it that big, I'll give you a larger
Oh,
shot.
thank you so much. All right, I did a much better job with my second
All
one.
right, look at
I'm
that,
feeling
y'all.
very
We're making some
proud.
tamales. Rachel, you're a pro. You're hired.
the law.
Let's start off with Smith Robertson and the amazing place that Smith Robertson is, and the stories that are told. The museum is housed in the first school for African Americans in the city of Jackson, beginning all the way back into 1869. But Richard Wright went to that school. That's right. It's so much history there that's so amazing and so wonderful. Jackson has such history. And then from there, let me segue into the two Mississippi museums, the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum, the Museum of Mississippi History. Two wonderful places that gives our history. The Museum of Mississippi History gives 15,000 years of history. We're going all the way back to dinosaurs, okay? Right. But to know that the Native American and how they were here, yes, and the history of that, and then you go into 30 years of history, the civil rights movement that was really big, the ground zero for the movement. And what I love about Mississippi and what I love about this place is that we touch these people. We're still able, a lot of them are still alive, so they walk into the museum, and that's just wonderful. And I tell people, we have to honor them. Yes. They've gone through every class of being beat up, being knocked down, and they're still standing. That strength is something that we all should have.
I think there's a family member in your family that's on the wall.
My mother.
Yes.
My mother was a freedom rider.
She was.
Yes. In fact, she came to Mississippi to be a freedom rider. She was part of a group called the Tougaloo Four. Mm-hmm. Okay. And she got arrested sitting in the Greyhound bus station where she wasn't supposed to be sitting. Right. And actually, she was with 3 African-American women, mm-hmm, and they arrested the 3 women. And my mother said, "No, I'm with them too." And yes, they said, "No, get out of here, lady." Yes. My mother's Asian. Yeah. You know? So she made them arrest her too. And there was nobody here to get her out of jail. So my grandfather, who ran the Big Apple at the time, mm-hmm, got her out of jail. She met my dad.
And wow, can you say her name? Because I just believe in saying the ancestors' names out loud.
Her name was Mary Harrison.
That's right.
Mary Harrison.
Mary Harrison.
What an extraordinary story. And how fortunate that Mary Harrison did what was right by standing up for what she believed in. And then look what happened when God took over, and here comes a Geno Lee.
That's right.
Look at that.
That's the wonderful part about it.
I was thinking about the Smith Robertson. My father went to the Smith Robertson
and I didn't know
school.
That. Okay.
In fact, his kindergarten teacher was Miss Minnie Farish.
Oh my goodness.
Whose father was the founder of Farish Street.
Farish Street. The connections in Jackson are amazing. You meet people and they'll tell you their stories. Again, poor stories are gone away, but when you listen to people talk, there's that connection with everybody. If we just sit down and talk for a few minutes, you know that there's a connection. And you'll say, "Oh my goodness, I found so many kinfolks."
That's right.
just by people seeing me and saying, "You look like somebody who looks like somebody." And I'm saying, that's my great granddaddy. And that's what's so crazy about it.
I don't want to discount at all the fact that when you say 2 museums, it's 2 museums. It is 2 full-size museums.
It is.
And here in the state of Mississippi, the first ever state-sponsored civil rights museum, which is a big step.
And I always tell people that finally Mississippi got it right, because the ills of Mississippi are on the walls, yes, at these museums. So what do you get from that? You're able to see it, get so engulfed in it that you understand the history. And then when you walk out, and the last gallery being, where do we go from here? What is your chore? How do you work? We got to do the work.
And you have a big mirror as you're walking out, and you're faced with that question. Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here?
Because history is made up of a series of decisions of individuals like your mom, who came to town and then forever changed, the butterfly effect, forever changed what was going on.
You have got to do things you can be proud of.
That's right.
That's for all of us. Now we have to look at ourselves, and that's why those mirrors are there. So when we read those quotes, we see our images, and we know we have to do the work. That's what it is.
If that just didn't sell a dozen tickets, I don't know what does. So one of the things that we like to do with Chefs with Soul is end out every episode with a toast. So I want to kind of put you on the spot just a little bit. I was thinking that maybe you might have something that you'd like to share with the public as a parting toast.
I do. That's kind of neat. You got one too, Pam?
I have one.
Okay. Well, I'm going to cheat. I wrote mine down.
Right on.
Okay. This is kind of a backstory to this. When my daughter was 4 years old, we'd sit in church, and the pastor would always get up and say, "As for me and my house, we're going to serve the," and the response was, "the Lord." Mm-hmm. My daughter, being 4 years old, "Me and my house, we're going to serve the," she screamed out, "Food!" Because whenever you come to my house, you're going to eat.
Yes.
You know, and that's what we always do. We always have lots of food. Mm-hmm. We love to entertain. So my toast is about coming to my house and eating. Okay?
Okay.
Get our glasses up.
I'm picking up a little something
Okay,
here.
yeah.
I may be picking up a little Cab Calloway here.
That's exactly what it is. Cab Calloway, but with a Big Apple Lynn spin on it.
Okay, let's go.
All right.
Try a tomato, Play-Doh. Here's Cacciatore, Tori. Taste the bologna, Tony.
Fried.
Fried bologna. Everybody eats when they come to my house. Have a smoking ear, Guinevere. Enjoy a tamale, Solly. At the Big Apple Inn, we all eat with a grin. Everybody eats when they come to my house. Cheers.
Outstanding. Right on.
Okay. This toast is for Jackson. We should continue to have hope, Jackson, because the dream is possible. We should continue to have heart, Jackson, because we love you until our demise. Salute, Jackson.
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 All right.
Beautiful. So, my toast is for you to come and enjoy the toast of our town. Jackson, Mississippi, crossroads of the South, I-55 and I-20. Look it up on a map. We'll see you next time on Chef with Soul.
I left my baby at the corner store.
There you go. I need to raise a glass for that.
Cheers all the way around to that. Right on.